In this lesson, we're going to build the task row and the status card that will display on our board. In this template, we actually already have a task row. It's in our other workspace that came along with the template called app. So we have a page here. What I'm going to do is duplicate this page to a new page using a similar naming convention. So now I'm going to select the page and I'm going to move it to our new workspace called Kanban. And then go over to our Kanban workspace. All right, so now our Kanban workspace has our new page on here. The really nice thing about duplicating a page, it comes with all the elements, including all their bindings, as well as all the flows and everything that works on them. So all of the data, everything the way it was done is just going to work here. So now we've got our task row. Let's go ahead and create the status card as well. For the status card, since we don't already have another page in the project that we can just duplicate, we're going to create it from scratch. So I'll move over a little bit in the canvas, go up to the page menu and insert page. And in this case, I'm going to insert a blank page. So we'll drag and drop that onto the canvas. I'll go ahead and adjust its position and its size to my liking, and we'll give it a name. Our status card will consist of an outer div element, the name of the status, as well as a repeating list of the tasks that have that status selected. So let's get started with just a div that we'll use for the outer. Drag and drop that onto my page, and I'll rename it. Next, we'll insert a text box that we'll use as the status name. And then last, we'll drop a repeating list onto the page. Note that I'm putting all these inside of the outer so that everything stays organized. On the repeating list, we'll select our display page, which is the task row page we had created before. Now that we have our basic elements on the page, let's set them up with data and get them styled. So let's start with the status name. We'll go to the data tab first. We want to pull in from the task statuses from the name field. In the next lesson, when we put this card into the UI of the board, each card will get displayed in a repeating list. So each card will be a status, which means that it will fill in from the current status's name into the status name. Next, let's set the data for the list of tasks. I'll go ahead and add a name here. So that way later, if I add another repeating list to the page, I know that this one is for the tasks. To set up the data for our repeating list of tasks, we'll go to the Data tab, but this time we'll go to the Collection List subtab. This is because we want the data for this repeating list to bring a set of records from a data collection. So we'll select our collection, which in this case is tasks. We want to bring all fields, because we're going to need them all for the display of the task row. And we need to add one filter here. We don't want every status card to display every single task. We want each status card to display only the tasks of the current status. So we'll add a filter, and the field from the tasks collection that we want to filter is the status ID, and we want to filter it using the current record field value. Because remember, this status card will be in a repeating list of records. So the current record will be the current status. So task statuses is the current record collection. And the field that I want to filter using is the ID. So now we'll only find tasks where the status ID is the same as the current status ID. So now we have our data set up for both of the elements on this page. Let's add some styling to the outer and to the status name element to give it a better look. So I'll click on the outer, we'll go to styling, and I'm going to make a brand new style. We'll give it a name and create our class. Inside of the style editor, we're going to make a couple of changes. So one thing I want to change is the spacing. we want to add a little bit of padding all the way around. So I'm going to click on the center padding. And the unit of measure I want is EMs, but you can use anything you'd like. I think we're going to just do 1 EM all the way around. So you can see now we have some nice padding around the edges. In addition to spacing, I also want to change the border radius. That will give us rounded corners instead of hard corners. So I'll go to the border and outline section. And if we scroll down, we can see border radius. Again, I want all the sides, so I'm going to select the center option. I'm again going to choose EMs as my unit of measure. This time I'm going to do half of an EM. So now we have rounded corners. Next, I want to change the background color. So we'll go into the background section and we'll look at some colors. I want to have a yellow tint, but not too yellow, primarily white. So we'll go a little bit left, maybe like right in there. Now we have a little bit of a yellow background there. And then the last thing I want to do is put a box shadow on the card. Trying to decide on a box shadow, I'll usually go to a website like CSS Scan and look at box shadow examples. On this site, you can scroll through and just see different box shadows that you might like and just click on one to copy the CSS. So I'll scroll up here. I'm going to copy this one by material. So clicked and copied. We'll go right back into Bildr. I'm going to paste my box shadow directly in here. Now this is the full CSS, so there's some things in here that we don't want. So I'm going to backspace this semicolon at the end. And I'm also going to remove the box shadow property name from the beginning, because all we want is the actual property value that we copied. So now if I click onto the canvas and deselect the page, you can see we have a nice box shadow around it. For the status name, I actually want to display the status name outside of the outer. So I want it to display up here above it on each card in my board. So to do that, I'm going to change the position styling of the status name to be position absolute. Now I only want that to apply to this one text paragraph element. So I don't want to go change the primary style class. Instead, I'm going to use inline styling to make a change to the style for this particular element so that it doesn't apply across other elements in my project. So I'll go into inline styling, go into layout, scroll down to the position settings. And we're going to set this as absolute position. When I do that, you can see it now moves itself outside of the flow of the other elements on the page. So it's just kind of floating on its own. But where I want it is actually positioned from the bottom 100%. And that way, no matter where the bottom is, it will be 100% from there up and get displayed. So now you can imagine for each card in my board, I'll have the status name floating above the list of tasks of that status. I will likely come back and make some additional changes to these styles as we build our board out. So now that we have our task row and our status card built, in the next lesson, we're going to build the board to display the list of statuses with all the tasks. Thanks for watching.